The 805 Focus is brought to you in part by Nonprofit Kinect. Nonprofit Kinect provides superior leadership tools and resources so nonprofit leaders and board members can make valuable decisions to move their organization forward to a sustainable and vibrant future. More information on services online at nonprofitconnect.org.
Welcome to 805 Focus. I'm Dr. Sinclair with Nonprofit Kinect, and we will be bringing you the latest on your favorite nonprofits. So get ready to be inspired. Our special guest today is Dr. Gabriella Garcia, and she is with the Alzheimer's Association. Welcome, Gabriella.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, yes, I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I understand that your focus is really the programs that happen at the Alzheimer's Association. So maybe you can tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We call our pillar care and support because that's the compass of everything that we do, the heart of the association, I like to say. We support families, we educate families and the community on lots of different topics surrounding dementia care.
Mm-hmm.
And not only Alzheimer's disease, we cover an array of dementias. There are actually over 100 different types of dementia.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's quite astounding. So we are the Alzheimer's Disease and Related Disorders Association. So we encompass all of the above.
Related disorders?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, give me an example.
So, some of the most common would be frontotemporal lobe dementia, Lewy body dementia.
Oh, I have heard about that.
Yeah, Parkinson's type dementia.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different types of dementias, Alzheimer's disease being the most common. And I would like to share what the difference is between Alzheimer's and dementia because
that would be good.
Yeah, we get that question a lot.
People use it sort of interchangeably sometimes.
And dementia is actually not a formal diagnosis.
Oh.
It's an umbrella term for a set of symptoms that cause loss of functioning in daily life.
Okay.
Of course, the memory loss could be decrease of peripheral vision, gait issues, things that have to do with daily life that are affected. And so if you think about it as an umbrella, you can, then have Alzheimer's disease, Lewy body, dementia, frontotemporal lobe dementia, all of those different types of dementias that are the diseases that actually cause the set of symptoms that we call dementia.
So does each one have its own set of symptoms that's different from the other one? Are they?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's not a one size fits all.
Mm-hmm.
If you know one person, I'm going to say with Alzheimer's disease, you only know one person with Alzheimer's disease.
Gotcha.
The diseases really affect everyone differently, and so their symptoms are different. And it could be, that they have a few and not some of the others.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to say, but I would say it's not a one size fits all.
Yeah, so I've heard that some people, for example, have inappropriate anger and other people never have any kind of anger.
Yeah, behavioral changes are very common and they can be very difficult. But if you think about behavior as a form of communication, that's essentially what it is. So we really try to teach caregivers, especially families, because it can be so personal, right? And a lot of the time there's lots of family dynamics and history there that can get a little tricky.
Yes.
And we're only human, so we can take things really personally. But if someone becomes angry, we try to coach families to look for what the root of the issue may be and what the cause of that behavior is, because they're trying to communicate something. And a lot of the time it's they don't feel safe, or perhaps it's too hot or too cold. A lot of those sensory issues can also cause discomfort. So it's definitely one of those things that we really try to get families and the community really to understand, because so many different things can happen, right? And we want people to be aware and educated and know how to de-escalate a difficult situation.
That's really important.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people, family members, friends, are in denial that, or I don't know if they're in denial, but maybe they just don't know what to look for, what the symptoms are.
Yeah, I think, well, that's a good point. Denial is a big part of it. A lot of the time, it's hard. It's a really difficult disease. And it's, seeing someone that you love that is, changing before your eyes, that can cause denial, not only in families, but also in the person with dementia. And, we see that a lot. So, that's one of the things that we really want to help people understand, is how to see the warning signs. Because hindsight is 20/20. So many times we have folks who come in and they're like, well, 10 years ago I noticed X, Y, and Z, and it's so hard, because back then maybe we could have done something to help alleviate the big crises that are happening now, to where they realized they couldn't do this any longer, and then finally sought a diagnosis.
So you would recommend, it sounds like, that people, general public, sort of educate themselves about the symptoms, the signs and symptoms, what to look for, so that if ever someone in their family has the challenge, they would recognize what it is and know how to get help early rather than late.
Yeah, absolutely. We do a fantastic class that you can find on our website. We offer it online as well as in person now, which is fantastic, and also over Zoom, the 10 warning signs. So we go over the 10 warning signs that affect daily life, that are the markers of what the disease may look like in the early stages and what to look for. So yes, community education is important, because we want not only family to be aware, but if you have a friend who is experiencing symptoms and you're not sure how to navigate that, or that conversation can be really difficult. So we definitely teach folks how to have those difficult conversations as well, which I think is a huge change in how we can move forward and promote more awareness around the disease. And I think over the last several years, we've done a fantastic job in reducing the stigma and talking about it, and more people are seeking help, and it's not such an isolated disease. So that is definitely the goal. We want to help as many people navigate the trajectory.
Yeah. So let's just say that you have a friend or a family member,
Sure.
and you really kind of suspect from the symptoms that you see that they may have some sort of dementia. And so would you want then to get them with a medical doctor so there could be a diagnosis? And then if so, how would you sort of orchestrate or encourage them to do that? That'd be a little tough.
Yeah, that's a great question. And there are a few parts to that. So I always tell people, one, it's important for yourself, right? It's important to seek a diagnosis, because you need to know what is happening. And a lot of times people say, well, there's not a cure and there's not really a treatment. Why should I seek a diagnosis? And I like to say, well, how can you plan for the future if you really don't know, what it is? And also, how can your team of physicians be exactly that, a team, and on the same page with the types of medication you're taking, and all of those things that could possibly enhance symptoms or cause other side effects because of the type of dementia that someone may have. And the other part of that is the bigger picture, right? We talk so much about awareness and research and campaigning for the cause and more funding so that we can one day find a cure. But how can we do that if folks aren't getting diagnosed?
Yeah.
And that we can't say this is the representation of all of the people who are suffering with this disease, right? So that, there's a lot of components to that. But to your last question, how do you have that difficult conversation? I always say a neutral space. So if you are, with a friend and you are in their home having coffee, don't do that in their home. Someone could get super defensive. I think I would.
Yeah.
And, especially if it's a parent, because, you don't want that a neutral space is always good. Maybe it's taking a walk and using I statements like, I noticed this and I'm really concerned. Would you want me to tell you if, there was something concerning that I'm noticing?
That's good.
And how can I help support you? Yeah, so all of those things I think are, really what I would suggest and do in that situation.
That's great. And I think I've read that another benefit of early diagnosis from a medical doctor is that there are medications that, it can't cure it, it can't stop it or anything like that, but it can sort of reduce the symptoms or something like that? Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are medications out that, primarily cholinesterase inhibitors that help to lessen the symptoms. They don't prolong the progression of the disease, and they're not a cure, and it's not a true treatment, but they do help to alleviate some of the symptoms. And I think that, we're fortunate to have that. Of course, having a treatment and having a cure is the ultimate goal, but they do help, especially in the earlier stages, for folks who are having really difficult symptoms.
Yeah. So tell us about some of your programs that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. So we offer a whole list of common programs that we do. Some of them include knowing the 10 signs, right? What to look for, how to have difficult conversations. We call that one dementia conversations. We also do healthy living for your brain and body, right? Because there's a direct correlation between what's good for your heart is good for your brain. So we, June is Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month. So every June, we like to really push that program, which is fantastic. So you can always find that on our website. And that one also talks about some lifestyle modifications that, help to prevent. And one of my favorites is understanding dementia-related behaviors. And so, like I spoke about earlier, behaviors are a form of communication. So I know a lot of the time when folks hear the word behaviors, they think, oh, that sounds bad, right? Because we think behaviors are bad, like a child, right?
Yeah,
That's not good. But really, it's, changing our minds to think about behaviors as forms of communication. That class is one of my favorites because we really go through some great scenarios on how to handle and de-escalate and reframe some really difficult, behaviors and how that may manifest in some people. So, yeah.
Wow. So I'll bet you folks collaborate with a lot of different organizations or groups.
Yeah, we do, especially for support groups. We do education classes, and we love to collaborate. We are always looking for volunteer community educators who are passionate about spreading awareness for the cause. And if you love to teach, we'll take you. Support group facilitators as well. So we collaborate with a number of partners, and not just in the field of aging. We are open to collaborating with anyone because this doesn't affect just the aging population, right? This is a whole family disease, and we're seeing so much more of that sandwich generation and a multi-generational home. So we really want to promote the awareness and understanding to all ages.
Yeah. So a person can go on your website.
Yep.
And they can find out about volunteering. They can find out about the different events that you have and when they're going to happen and how to do them and all that.
Yes.
Collaboration. They, while they're on your website, can hit that donate now button and make a financial donation that is tax deductible.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. The Alzheimer's Association is the third largest funder in the world of Alzheimer's disease research. So, all of our fundraisers go to help fund not only our local programs, but also the really important research that's occurring.
And you also focus on the needs of the caregivers.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Self-care for caregivers is so important, and having support groups that are easily accessible is our goal, because creating a support system around yourself is extremely important. We see so many times that caregivers isolate themselves, and because they don't want to share or they don't want to burden someone with asking for help. So I always say, write a list down. What are some of the things that you could really use help with? And when someone says, what can I do for you? You can then refer to that, and you don't have to think about it off the top of your head, because that's sometimes hard. I think as humans, we innately have a hard time saying, can you please do this for me, right?
Yeah, sure.
So, supporting caregivers, making sure that they are taking care of themselves so that they can take care of their loved one is extremely important.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I'll bet you have a story that you could share with us.
Yeah, well, my grandfather, who helped to raise me, he was, very much my father figure, had Alzheimer's disease, and I was his primary caregiver for a very long time. So I saw the entire trajectory of the disease. And while it was extremely difficult and heartbreaking, especially because I didn't have the awareness or the education, the knowledge, right, that I have now. So it's always hindsight. If I only knew then what I know now, I would have done so many things differently. And that's why it's so important to educate yourself, and why I'm so passionate about helping others, learn about the disease. But it was a really difficult time. I was young. I was only 19 when I started caring for him, and I had to make a lot of sacrifices. I had to take night classes to finish college, and he passed a semester into grad school.
Okay.
And it was, extremely difficult. However, also the most beautiful journey, and I wouldn't change a thing, despite all of the heartache and the sacrifices that I had to make. But it led me on a path to really understand people better. It taught me how to love unconditionally, how to be someone's voice and advocate who no longer had a voice. So I learned so much, and I volunteer with the association as well, and have in the past and before I started working here. And so it has really given a lot to my life and to my family, and I hope to be able to honor his memory for a long time.
Yeah. I think you said you've been with him for 10 years.
Yes, I've been with the association for 10 years. So in a lot of different roles, and it's been fantastic. Yeah, getting to to meet so many people who are going through the same thing, and offering them comfort and support, and education. I say education is the key, I think, in this disease.
Yeah, I'm sure they really appreciate that.
I would hope so.
So we have about a minute left. Is there any other message you'd like for our audience to hear about
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to share our helpline number. That's 800-272-3900, and it's a 24/7 helpline. And I know an 800 number may sound a little bit scary, but you talk to a live person every time, and then they'll send us a note to follow up locally afterwards. Say they call in the middle of the night, we'll follow up afterward.
That is great.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely
important to know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Gabriella.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Work that you're doing.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
We appreciate you being on the show, telling everybody about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And thank you for joining us on 805 Focus, and we'll see you next time.